We're delighted to welcome Alix Collingwood Swinburn, who is the Curator of Western Art at Durham University, for an interview to celebrate International Women's Day as part of our Ustinov Meet series. The theme for International Women's Day this year is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in the COVID-19 World, with the tagline Choose to Challenge. We're pleased to welcome Alix to speak about her experiences and career to date. So Alix, thank you so much for talking to us today as part of our activities for International Women's Day. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your career to date? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. My name's Alix, and I am currently Curator at Western Art at Durham University. I've been here 4.5 years now, I think. So I came in 2016, and I primarily work with the university's what we call the Western Art collection. So it's largely modern and contemporary art. So we have about 6,000 artworks. And I work across looking after that collection and preserving it, but also around thinking around how we open up access to that collection and how we engage students in the university, but also the wider public and our wider communities in a collection that doesn't actually have its own museum or art gallery at the moment. So thinking how to kind of increase access when you have no physical space, or kind of home spaces is always an interesting kind of challenge to be faced with, I think. So prior to joining Durham University, I completed a BA in visual culture at the University of Brighton. So I grew up in Durham. I'm from Durham originally, and then I went almost as far away as I could get in terms of the UK, all the way down south to Brighton, to the south coast, and spent a few years down there, and then came back up to do my MA at Newcastle University, which was in Art Museum and Gallery Studies, and then was really, really, really fortunate, actually, when I think back, that after that I was lucky enough to get a kind of few months part-time contract working at MIMA, which is the Middlesbrough Institute of Modern Art, as a curatorial assistant for a project that they had on there. It was a big exhibition project about the Bauhaus kind of art school, and I basically never left. So I was there in the end for 9 years, I think, and that included, it was. It didn't feel like a long time, actually, because I think I was kind of quite fortunate, and I kind of started and was able to develop and kind of develop my career and my kind of professionalism there, I think. So I kind of ended up as curator. I did a stint as kind of acting senior curator for a couple of years, and there was always a new challenge. There was always something different happening. So the MIMA started off as an art gallery museum that was run by the local council, Middlesbrough Council, and by the end we had transitioned into being a university museum. So we were managed by Teesside University. So that was kind of a really interesting process to go through. And yeah, I think the institution as a whole kind of grew and developed a lot throughout that time. But it was a really interesting time to be honest. It was only when I first joined, the institution itself, the organisation itself, was only 6 months old, so it was brand new, with kind of a brand new team of staff. So it did, it became almost like a family. We grew together, I think. And then I decided I needed a new challenge, and ended up in Durham, 4.5 years ago. Completely different context to working in Middlesbrough.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your rich experiences. I can see your character from your experience, like you like to challenge yourself and to push yourself to progress. That's very impressive. So for our second question, International Women's Day this year focuses on women in leadership, and the slogan this year is "Choose the Challenge." So, what does this mean to you personally and professionally?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I think "Choose the Challenge" is it's kind of such an inspiring term, I think, really, because I think for me that means that you should almost kind of strive to question everything. So not just kind of every one of what you're doing, but also personally question kind of what you're doing and why you're doing it. I know as a curator, I spend a lot of time thinking, particularly with projects that I'm working on, or activities that I have going on. It's constantly kind of asking why are we doing this? Who is it for? And if you can't provide those answers, then you need to really think about whether it's something worth doing in the first place. But I think for me personally, it's around Choose the Challenge would be around kind of having not just the confidence to kind of question, but also the confidence to ask questions, and the confidence to kind of use your voice, and remember to use your voice, that you have a voice and it's a valid voice, which isn't always a really easy thing to do. I think quite easy to forget. So yeah, I think it's challenging expectations, challenging stereotypes, challenging yourself. I think some of the things that when I look back, some of the things that I've kind of learned, I've been the most kind of prominent in my learning, and things that I've done that perhaps slightly terrified me at the time, and I really didn't want to do them. But actually, it turns out okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The challenge gives you unsure feelings, but can also make you to achieve new achievements. Ustinov College's tagline is "Local Community, Global Citizens," and we have many strong relationships with community partners and organizations. So, in your view, how can art facilitate community engagement?
I think art is all about community engagement, or engagement, kind of full stop. I think look at even going back to kind of when the term community art first came out in the 1970s, up into kind of what we have now, a more kind of modern contemporary term for it would be socially engaged art, or socially engaged practice. And I think actually a lot of art has a level in engagement in it, whether it's formally tagged as being a community art project, whether it's tagged as being a socially engaged project. Even if you're visiting a museum and looking at a painting on a wall, you're still engaging with it on some level. Even if you decide you hate something, you're still engaging with it on some level. And I think art, it has this ability to kind of enhance learning, particularly creative learning, and skills around inquiry and independent thought, which I think makes it quite unique. I think overall art is just fun, you can have so much fun with art.
Wow.
Which I think is kind of how, it's one of the key ways I think you can facilitate community engagement with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. I think it's one of the best ways to having fun while just provoke your thinking and being critical.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no pressure, it's, if you're just drawing or doodling or doing something, you might not even class it as doing art. Because art can be quite a scary word, if we did a big event and said it's a great big art event, people would probably be put off by that. If we said it's, come and sit down and have a cup of tea and a biscuit and chat, and people end up doing a little drawing while they're doing that, great.
Yeah, that's amazing. So speaking of this, you have recently launched the Art Prize Art School at Durham University. Can you tell us more about this new initiative?
Yeah, so the art school, the Art Prize Art School is connected to the wider Student Art Prize that we run. So the Student Art Prize in itself is within its second year now, and we established the Art Prize primarily, I suppose, in response to student feedback and also with conversations with other like-minded alumni at the time, that although Durham students practice art, they might not necessarily call themselves or class themselves as artists. We don't formally teach art, so a lot of artists were creating work within their own kind of societies and colleges, which are great, really long established, or within the kind of central Students' Union Society, but there wasn't particularly a kind of university provided formal platform for the support and the development of art. So that's kind of where we established the Art Prize from. And then this year, rather than just running the Art Prize, which we launch each year in October, November, and then the submission date isn't until February, that's quite a long gap. And normally that gap is taken up with me sending lots of messages and emails out to students saying, remember to apply, I hope you're all making your artworks. And I thought maybe they might get a bit sick of that. So we decided that in that gap in between, instead, it would be great to actually run some talks or workshops or resources that students and the public and the wider community could get involved in, that were all kind of based around the same theme of the Art Prize. So this year it was heroism, that might, help develop work that the students are thinking of making to submit. It might change their mind about work that they wanted to submit, and also offer something for our communities that was free, that was quite accessible, and online for them to do during what turned into the lockdown number 3. And I think what we wanted to do really with the Art Prize was kind of expand interpretations of the theme of heroism, because although it was inspired very much by the events of the last year, but actually we didn't want to focus just on the events of the last year because it's got a much wider context, I think. So we held an open call for artists to submit ideas for workshops or resources that they might want to do. So we worked with 5 artists, most of whom I think are based in the region, bar one or two, I think, who either developed a kind of live workshop or talk for us, which we could record, or they created a resource or a film, which we put on our website, on the Student Art Prize Art School website, and I think hopefully it's something that we'll continue doing to run alongside the Art Prize. I think it plays a huge kind of part in developing practice, and opening up access to kind of the wider artistic community as well. Sometimes, if you're a student artist within university or within your college art society, it's sometimes quite hard to engage with the wider artistic community, particularly during the last year or so. So yeah, I think hopefully it was well received. We had kind of good attendance figures, and I think we can see, so we've just closed, the deadline for the Art Prize has just closed, and I think I can definitely see some inspiration or influence in some of our submissions from the art school programme, which is great. It's what we wanted.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to more of your program, and I think art is powerful. But if we talk about the pandemic right now. So the recent COVID-19 pandemic has shown a light on sciences. But how do you feel the arts contribute during periods of challenge, such as the one we're currently experiencing?
I think hugely. I think arts and art, that the arts in general and creativity in general are hugely significant for well-being, for mental health. I think just having that sense of kind of creativity in your life, it can also be really social. You can sit and have a draw around and a chat to some people that you might meet, and it's just a really, really good way of engaging, I think, on a wider level. And I think we mentioned earlier, art can really enhance kind of creative skills or creative learning or independent thought or kind of critical inquiry, which are all kind of really kind of different, unique skills and things, I think, that you can do through art that potentially you might not get anywhere else, or not as much altogether. So I was thinking one of the projects we did, and this was before COVID, but we did an exhibition of work by an artist called Norman Cornish, he was from Spennymoor, and he passed away a few years ago, and he used to walk around with a sketchbook practically all of the time and sketch just the streets around him, the pubs, the people, the scenes. So to go alongside that exhibition, we held a series of events in pub sketching tours. And we used to have a little group and walk around various watering holes of Durham and do a drawing challenge in each one. And it's great fun. Just a group of people that hadn't met each other before coming together, and it's really fun. So I think art is incredibly important for well-being, for mental health, and also kind of developing confidence, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think you're doing a great job, and it's very valuable. So considering this, what advice would you give current students or recent students looking to embark upon the career in art or art curation?
Yeah, I think really it's about, spend as much time as you can talking to people. Find out what it's like. I know when I was at university, I didn't even know what a curator was or what they did, and it's kind of fluffy thing. And I think spend a lot of time talking to people. Everyone's generally really helpful and lovely, and try and kind of volunteer with various organizations. A lot of it, I think, is figuring out which bit of art or which bit of museums, galleries or curating you might want to do. It's quite a specialist kind of area. I mean, it's such a vast area that you need to specialize. So for example, my kind of focus is very much on kind of modern and contemporary art. Whereas, my colleague Rachel, who's curator of the Oriental Museum, that's her specialism. We don't cross each other. I don't know anything about that stuff. So I think it's very much around, taking time to think about where it is you want to be and what it is you actually want to do. And then I would always think, in terms of that kind of formal qualifications, very kind of generally think around, having a first degree in something that could be visual culture, it could be art history, it could be history, it could be anthropology, it could be sociology, but then think about either be prepared to kind of put in kind of volunteer hours or work experience hours, and then consider, I think, looking at a kind of postgraduate course. Again, depends what sort of place you want to work in. Completely.
you so much. It's very helpful. So as our last question for you, if you could talk to yourself when you were 21, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
So when I was 21, I was in my second or last year of my undergrad degree, I think, in Brighton. I took a year, I did a gap year, so I can't remember, it'd be second year, I can't remember. So my advice probably would be to kind of embrace as many of the opportunities as possible that you get through formal education. Absolutely. And to also, I think, you know, just be generally, which I think is a useful ethos to have anyway, is to just be kind. And I think it's be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and be kind in the kind of the pressure that you put on yourself and the expectations that you put on yourself. And I think, yeah, just kind of, you know, be inquisitive and embrace kind of learning and challenge, I think.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very good piece of advice for our whole life, not only for the age of 21. Thank you so much. That's all our questions for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I enjoyed so much in the talk with you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.